G'day, hi, and welcome. Oh boy, you guys in for a treat today. No, not my barking dog. You'll just have to tolerate her because she's being a jerk face. And what you're looking at here is a 2007 model SG61 Reissue. Yes, the infamous, lovely. Look at that paint. Look at that paint. Get some more light on there. There you go. That is the beautiful SG61 Reissue. I've had this guitar since 2009. I got it secondhand, and I got it from Long and McQuaid, and I love this guitar. It's my favorite guitar in the whole wide world. We're going to do some SG talking today. There you can have a good look at the bridge and the tailpiece, the two-pneumatic bridge and all that. Specs. We'll start with the specs. Basically, you got, I got the truss rod off there, but normally it's just a little truss rod cover that says Gibson on it. You got basically a mahogany body and neck with a rosewood fingerboard. They call them jumbo frets, but by today's standard, you'd call these a medium fret. With binding, of course, beautiful neck on this thing. Trapezoid inlays, they're, trapezoid, I think it's just mother of pearl or whatever. It's not the ebony inlays, but ebony's weird because ebony could be a black fingerboard or it could be a really colorful seashell looking and whatever. You have two tones, two volumes, one jack, and a three-way switch. And two classic 57s, the half batwing pickguard, everybody calls them something a little bit different. The cut devil horns. But this guitar started back before 1961, actually. This is just the reissue. And I believe they started doing the reissues around 92, 94, 96, somewhere around that. And the first time I ever had one of these things in my hands, I was just like, what is this thing? This thing is incredible. And there's a lot of things that make the SG still iconic to today. In fact, Woodstock was pretty much the parade show of SGs that was like the ultimate guitar to have. A lot of guys like playing them live because number one, they were lighter than their Les Pauls. But the confusing thing is this did not start as an SG. It started as a Les Paul or Les Paul 2. There was a couple of things, but there's a lot of controversy whether Les Paul actually liked the guitar, didn't like the guitar, whether it was divorce. He wanted to avoid himself from any sort of assets so that wouldn't get conquered in the divorce, or if he just was upset that they went from a different model. But the thing about this guitar is it's really the first speed shredder metal head guitar. It is the guitar that Gibson had a slogan that if this can't get it out of you, you don't have it in you, because this guitar practically plays itself. Now, there's some imperfections on the guitar. Everybody knows about the gravity problem with the headstock. They hide like a cement brick or something in the headstock so it goes boop every time you... the body's not heavy enough to actually hold the guitar up. So there's that. They did have and still do have a bit of a fragile heel joint. So if you flex the guitar too much, this guitar, the only imperfection really in this guitar is two. The number one is I got one of the volume pots has like a chip out of it somewhere. I can't even see it right now, but somewhere, yeah, right there. You feel it just ever so slightly. How that happened, I don't know. Previous owner. I'm probably the second owner of this guitar. I don't know who owned it before that. And I have a bit of a bow in the neck, which can be fixed, but you're talking lots of money, and it's not bad enough for me to do anything about it and risk, damaging the nitrocellulose lacquer, which is another debate whether it actually makes a difference with the guitar. I believe it does because my ears tell me it does. I've had SGs with polyethylene on them with mahogany body, and I've had these Gibsons with, I also have an SG3 with the nitrocellulose lacquer, and yeah, you do hear a tone difference. If your ears can't pick it out, it's fine, don't worry about it. But yeah, it does make a difference. However, it is a bit of a fragile finish, but it's a work hardening finish. So if you polish it up, one advice I will say, I don't care if it's a Gibson or whatever, anything with the nitrocellulose lacquer, make sure, because it is work hardening, you take like a lint free cloth like this. For when you buy them at new, they're a bit sticky to the touch. Right now, this thing is silky smooth. It's one of the fastest necks you can get for its time. Like it was
called the fastest neck on any guitar at the time, and it probably was. There's really nothing out of that 1960s era that you can shred on quite like this, but we'll get to that in a bit. But just rub the guitar down. Don't use any guitar polish whatsoever for at least the first 6 to 8 months of your guitar. You're not going to need it anyway, because every time you wipe it down after you use it, like when I got my SG3, it was sticky to the touch. And then, I play it or whatever, and it gets smoother because every time you're, rubbing back and forth on it. And then you put it down and the guitar would cool off. You grab it and be sticky again. That was, even though the paint, the lacquer was dry, it was still tacky. But after about 6 months of just wiping it down after every time I use it, not only did it get shinier and gives it that wet look, like this guitar is dry, like, it's dry to the touch. It also got it works, the nitrocellulose lacquer, it packs it a bit, so it makes it like glass, basically. So not only do you get a terrific shine, but you get a really fast, slippy neck, which is what you want, which is great. When the lacquer gets kind of hot when you're playing or whatever, you will find that you have to wipe it down every now and then, just because it will start to get a little bit tacky if it's really, really warm out. But we're talking like hours of playing, right? Like, or really hot or whatever. Classic 57s. Not all the 61 reissues have some of them have burst buckers now. I prefer the ones with the classic 57s because that's the metal head. This is kind of like the prototype to the metalhead kind of stuff. Then you got your dirty fingers and your 500 Ts and whatever. But these pickups are not as bubbly or twangy as, like, say, burst buckers. Burst buckers can be slightly out of phase, which gives them a much more twangier sound. And then the Les Paul 59 pickup, same thing. They're slightly out of phase. So they have a really nice sweet tone, but they don't have that powerhouse kind of punch you in the face kind of tone like the classic 57s. These were the high output pickups of their time. So 1961 is the reissue. There's the 62 reissue. You also have, your typical Tunomatics or whatever, Gibsons. I'll flip this thing over in a bit there, but, well, I guess I can do it now. It's hard to do stuff one-handed. Just so you can see the back of it. Most people don't really care about the back of the guitar as much, but just so you can see. But you can see how thin this guitar is. It is very thin. It's probably not as thin as the originals either. They actually had to beef them up because the way it works is the neck, as you see, there's your Tunomatics, and they say Gibson on them. And the 61 reissues, I think, are the only, except for the customs, that have the big headstock too. The rest have a slightly slimmer headstock. So you got your mahogany neck, and there's a tenon that goes in there, not very far because you're right at the pickup pretty much, and that's what holds it on. That's kind of one of the flaws in the design. And you can see you're beveled here, your cavities there. You can just see the awesome, awesome wood grain. Hopefully the camera's doing it justice here. Fantastic, you got a bit of it. So this thing actually, a lot of people might find this a strange statement, but it's actually, this is the competitor to the Stratocaster, because there's a lot of similarities to a Stratocaster. You're saying, what the heck are you talking about? Well, so it's flat top, and you've got arching, right? You got this for your arm, so it's very comfortable. It's contoured in the back. Some of the early Les Pauls were not contoured in the back, what we know a Les Paul is. However, anybody ordering a Les Paul back in the day had to be super confused. Like, are you talking about the Les Paul with the one cut, or are you talking about the one with the devil horns on it? Like, people wouldn't have known because everything was called a Les Paul, and it really, really, really kind of screwed people up. So these things came out in the late 50s as the design, right? They had a custom, they had all that. But what got it to the SG. The SG is for solid guitar. And when Les Paul wanted his name taken off the headstock, some of them said Les Paul right here. So what they did is they called it the solid guitar because it basically was one piece solid mahogany in 61 and then one piece solid mahogany neck. Same thing, rosewood fingerboard. So they've tweaked it over the years, but this is essentially the same thing as the original. And sorry, we must pause for cat. For time. Kind of dirty. Cat is in. Check. So let's get back to the guitar. So what makes these guitars so great? Well, maybe I'll make a part 2 here because usually you can't cover it all in one shot. But that's the basic history of it. We'll talk a little more about the history in the second part.